Hello, and welcome to the Northeast Ohio Media Group Candidate Debates. I'm Emily Bamforth. Tonight we have a debate for Euclid City Council Ward 1, up for election November 3rd. The candidates will introduce themselves in a moment, but first, the rules. We'll start with 1 minute for each candidate to introduce themselves and explain why they're running. Then we'll ask questions, giving each candidate 90 seconds to answer and a minute for any follow-up. At the end, we'll allow for 10 minutes for the candidates to ask each other questions, with 60 seconds permitted for the answers. So let's get started. Christopher Gruber, would you like to go first?
I certainly would. Thank you, Emily, for having us here this evening. I'm Christopher Gruber. I was born and raised in the city of Euclid. I served on Euclid City Council for 10 years when it was Ward 4 and then Ward 1. I'm currently employed at the Cleveland Society for the Blind. I've lived in my same house that I was born in, and I was very active in the community. I always answered my phone calls and responded quickly to constituent needs, and I'm looking forward to serve the people of Ward 1 again.
All right, thank you very much. And then we have Stefana Cavanes. Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Emily, and thank you very much for having me. I am Stefana Cavanes. I am a 10-year resident of Euclid, although my family moved into Euclid 37 years ago. So I'm very much familiar with Euclid and have been active since then. I am a mother of 3 and am currently the sitting council person in Ward 1. I enjoy the work that I do. I love the people. I love the city, and I am looking forward to serving them for another 4 years. Thank you.
All right, so to get started, we'll start with you, Councilwoman Cavanes.
Yes.
During your time on council, what is one of the issues you think has been most important that City Council has addressed, and how did City Council go about addressing it?
That is something that is hard to answer because there are so many issues. I think that one of the main issues that we look at is safety. Mm-hmm. And one of the most difficult decisions that we made was to regionalize our dispatch. That was a very difficult decision because we like our city the way it is, and it's very close. And to regionalize meant that we had to move our dispatch unit out of the city, even though the police are still there. Mm-hmm. But the dispatch itself is in, not Chagrin Valley, but Bedford Heights. Mm-hmm. And but it has not stopped the time. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but it hasn't slowed down the response time. However, we did have some difficulties with the radios in some of the high rises initially, but that is always expected sometimes when you have frequency problems, and they're changing all the time. Mm-hmm. But now we've accomplished that goal, and it seems to be very effective. I know that it was a difficult thing for me because I thought that we needed to maintain that sense of community. But as I did more research, I understand that this is not just something that happens in the, that happens within our own city, but it's throughout the country. Mm-hmm. And this has a lot to do with homeland security.
Right.
So it wasn't just a decision that Euclid had to make, but a lot of cities have to make. So that was one of the most difficult.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gruber, as a challenger, what is one of the issues that is at the forefront of your campaign?
I believe that the councilwoman addressed it. One of the reasons that I got into the race was because of the dispatch system. The city of Euclid had a dispatch system for many, many years. It was well maintained, well funded. In the last several years, they haven't been maintained or funded as much. It was attractive to the city financially to go with the Chagrin Valley Dispatch. But as time goes on, it will cost us more and more money. We currently have about 38% of the calls go to Chagrin Valley Dispatch, and we pay on call volume. We're the largest user of the system. Some of our dispatchers were laid off, and there was more than just the high rises that didn't have radio. Our neighborhood, Indian Hills, the chief said during the committee meeting they didn't have radio frequency ability. The high school didn't have it, and the hospital didn't have it, and the police station didn't have it. The police would actually have to go outside to use the radios to contact for dispatch to get like a number for a report, stuff like that, putting everyone's lives in jeopardy. I think it should have been looked at a little more. We should have taken care of our system longer. The city of Euclid's really well lately of just giving everything away. We really hardly do anything anymore. Shores outsourced, the golf course is outsourced, the jail was given away, dispatch has been given away. We really don't have much of a core group of services anymore. We used to be the city of superior services. Now we're a lakefront city, and the superior services dropped off. Now to bring those back.
All right. Councilwoman Cavanis,
Yes.
would you like to follow up?
I would like to say that, yes, we did have some issues, but that wasn't something that we did not have before. Mm-hmm. Even when we had our dispatch within the city, we had issues with our radios, so that wasn't anything that was new. However, it is going to save us money in the long run, as opposed to where we were going. We also have outsourced because the county now owns our jail, but that is saving us money as well. That's really all I have to say about that right now.
Great. Mr. Gruber, so you talked about these problems. What are some potential solutions, do you think?
I'd like to piggyback on the dispatcher thing. Not only could they not talk in our own neighborhoods, but they couldn't talk to Cleveland, they couldn't talk to Wycliffe, they couldn't talk to Willowick for quite a while. And those are our neighbors that have mutual response. The frequencies didn't match up when they got the system, so there was obviously not enough done to it. Some of the problems that we currently have that we need to solve, is that what you're questioning?
Some of the solutions to the problems that you brought up in your previous answer.
The dispatching system,
Mm-hmm.
that it may have been a good idea. In the future, it may save us money. Right now, it's not. Actually, it's been admitted that it's going to be a wash, and we may even cost us money because we had to buy new radios that worked on the right frequency. I think we rushed into the decision. I know it was a difficult decision for my opponent, and I appreciate that. It was difficult for everyone. If we would have took care of stuff all the way along the way, we wouldn't be in this problem. That's one of the things that Euclid's really good at, just letting stuff fall apart. The radio system hadn't been adequately maintained for years, and now we're paying the price. And in the long run, there is a problem with response time. Now when you call, they ask you what city are you calling from, and they transfer you to that city's dispatch. Mm-hmm. So there is a little lag time. And plus, the dispatchers aren't our dispatchers all the time. They don't know what you're talking about. If you say we're at 222nd Street, behind the CVS, they don't know where we are.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this leads on into our next question.
Okay, good. I had a response to that, so okay.
Well, these two questions are very much connected.
Okay.
So obviously, it was a difficult decision made by council, as you said. Let's talk about regionalism on kind of a broader standpoint. Sure. Where do you stand on regionalism? What services do you think could be regionalized? What do you think people need to keep in mind when regionalizing these kinds of services? Mr. Gruber, do you want to go first?
Sure, Emily. Thank you. One of the things that comes to mind right now is our sewer plant. We're investing anywhere from $110 to $150 million in the Euclid sewer plant. We have our own sewer plant. Northeast Regional Sewer District's been around for years. And maybe it's time that we look at joining them. That might be a nice thing to outsource, because that $150 million, $110 million, whatever the number is going to be on our backs, on the taxpayers. The sewer users of the city of Euclid. At one time, we had large industrial base would help pay for the sewers. That's not the fact anymore. So this entire bill is going to be passed on to the taxpayers of the city of Euclid. This is something that we could have researched. The Easterly wastewater treatment plant is just a few miles down the road. I'm sure that a pipeline down the road would be a lot cheaper than $140, $150 million.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I agreed wholeheartedly with my opponent that we need to look at joining up with the sewer plant, Northeast Ohio. And also, when we look at it, we also need to join up with other services like waste collection, trash collection, things like that. But we also just signed an agreement, or will be signing an agreement with other cities, so that an anti-poaching agreement, so that even though we share, we're on this a committee to share ideas about businesses and maintaining businesses in our city, we don't want to have encroach on anyone else when it comes to trying to seduce a business away from another city.
Right.
So that's something that we are looking at. We're working together with them, but we want to make sure that we maintain our autonomy, and we're not taking something away from our sister cities as well. So and I'd like to also say that as an African American, when we look at regionalization is typically not good for African Americans because it takes away our power when we're looking at that. That's why it was very difficult for me to even look at what we're doing with the police department as well. And that's something I would have to get into a further discussion about, though, at another time.
Well, we do have a period at the end where we could probably bring back.
It's a long one, though.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Mr. Gruber, would you like to make any follow-up?
One place that we may be able to look at regionalization is the fire departments. Every city has a ladder truck. Every city has their pumper trucks, and everybody likes to have their own little control over that type of system. But the expense for the fire is tremendous. And most of the time when the smaller suburbs buy a ladder truck, it's a parade vehicle. They're spending $800,000 for a parade vehicle. And most of the time we're calling for mutual aid now, so that might be something that we could explore and help share the cost, because police and fire are very expensive services. And that's something we should look at. I know the policemen won't like it and the firemen won't like it, but it's a reality.
Gotcha. Councilwoman?
And that falls right into what we have done now with the Chagrin Valley. And those are some of the future plans that we're discussing right now. I've been on council since I was appointed in 2012, and I am finishing up the term that when one of the other persons stepped down, the other council person stepped down. So I was voted in 2013 to do that. Now I am running for a full term this year. So I've been on only about 2.5 years. And I inherited, when I first came on, and I know this is kind of going off of it, but I was busy putting out fires, so to speak. Now I'm looking at ways that we can improve. And one of the ways, as Mr. Gruber said, is to regionalize our fire and our police department. And that's why it was also another plus to go to the Chagrin Valley as well. But it took a lot to decide on that. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of discussion and a lot of community involvement with that as well. Some not so much in favor of, and a lot of people in favor of.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about economic development. What are some ideas that both of you have about bringing new businesses into the city? Councilwoman, do you want to start?
I knew you were going to ask me first. I have given a lot of thought. I have a strategic plan for Ward 1 that I have considered. And bringing the businesses into Ward 1 is important. However, we don't have a lot of opportunities within our ward for that. In the city itself, I think the first thing we have to do, and this may not sound very attractive to you, but the first thing is to know how to develop a relationship and continue the relationships that we have with the present businesses that we have. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we have not been doing that very well. Mm-hmm. We have not cultivated the relationships with the businesses that we have, and we have lost some because of that. So I think that it's essential for us to, first of all, know what it is, to actually build that, have that relationship building. And then at that point, I know that there are other glamorous ways that we can attract businesses, but we have to do that first. But we also have to make sure our safety forces are intact. And that's essential because they need to know that they're going to be protected when they move in. We also have to know that our neighborhoods are together. We have to have, because right now we have neighborhoods where we have vacant homes and we have vacant housing. You know, the values have gone down. So we have to look at that. So there are different steps that we have to take in order to bring our city back to where it used to be, providing superior services, and then market to the businesses that we think will benefit the community. And that's another thing, having community forums to find out what the needs are for the community.
Great, thank you. Mr. Gruber?
Thank you. As I said before, I was on council for 10 years, and then I was term limited out, so I had to step down, and we had someone between the both of us. Euclid Avenue ran the entire length of my ward at that time. During that time, we brought 2 grocery stores to Euclid Avenue. J.D. Byrider came to Euclid Avenue. Walgreens in the corner of Dilly and Euclid. I knew almost, we rebuilt the McDonald's, we did a Speedway, we did V&B Appliance. I know almost every business owner on Euclid Avenue personally. Dennis Turnat owns Euclid Group. Mr. Kruger owns the HGR plant, which he's putting $14 million in. And I've worked with them. We also brought Lake Area Abrasive in. I mean, I talked to the folks at Walgreens, you know, to get them to take over the abandoned gas station. Working through the city, we really need to revitalize Euclid Avenue. There's not a bank on Euclid Avenue. There's not a sit-down restaurant on Euclid Avenue. You can't buy a pair of blue jeans, a pair of Levi's on Euclid Avenue, the entire stretch. At the bottom of Upper Valley, there's a shopping plaza called Indian Hills Plaza. Right now, I believe there's maybe a daycare in there. Is that it?
There's a daycare, and in the back part, there's right. An attorney, several other places.
It's a large center. You used to have a grocery store in there, a restaurant, a couple other retail things. The Walgreens was in there, and there was a Burger King. That's all empty now. And that's one of the first things you see when you come to the city of Euclid. So that would probably be within the first 100 days, the first step I would take to revitalize that. And it's a challenge. We're not kidding anybody, and I'm sure that my opponent has worked at it, but we need really a stronger economic development department in the city of Euclid itself, at City Hall. We can only do a little part, and we need help.
Right. Let's begin the follow-up with something that, Councilwoman,
can I say that?
Go ahead.
Because I'd like to say that particular area was vacant when I took office. Mm-hmm. And I have been working with the owner of that building, of that stretch of mall, to see who we could put in there. Unfortunately, and this is to be very honest, with the city being probably about 67% African American now, the explanation that was given to me is that we can only attract certain businesses because we know that the money in an primarily African American community, the money stays within the community for about 6 weeks, whereas in another ethnicity it may even circulate 6 to 7 months. So there are businesses that will not come in unless we change the mindset of people. And that has to be done. It's not a pretty sight, and it's not something that, because I work with Mr. Kruger, who, when he was having a difficult time even purchasing, he was renting that building. Mm-hmm. And he had a difficult time even purchasing the building where he's located, which is HGR. I worked with him when they had to have fire watches 24 hours a day for months on end because of the problems with the building. So I understand that, and all the other businesses that are there I've worked with as well. But there's the reality of the fact that because we have an increasing aging population and low-income population, that there are other issues that we have to address as well.
Right. All right, thank you. Do you have any follow-up, Mr. River?
Well, yes. We have right next to this plaza is Indian Hill Senior Complex. It's the largest privately owned senior complex in the United States. It's got 1,600 units in it. There's a little bit of money there that we could find something that they could use, like another little grocery store instead of going to the gas station all the time. But yes, it's a very difficult. There's no banks on Euclid Avenue, but we have 5 car title loans. So legislating some of those down a little bit. And those really prey on the folks that can least afford them. So,
gotcha.
Quality businesses, and it is difficult.
I agree.
I wanted to follow up on something the councilwoman said. Keeping businesses within the city. So there is that idea of bringing new businesses in, but there's also that idea of keeping businesses from flipping out. Would you like to address that?
Whatever it takes to keep them in the city of Euclid. I think we both would do that. We go down there, you have to meet with the owners, you have to offer programs that the city has in place already. We have a high income tax in the city of Euclid. It's hard to keep some of the smaller businesses in Euclid, but it's a job every day that you have to go out and do. You have to knock on doors. You have to get to know the folks and know the resources that are available to help them, because that's really the backbone of the economy in the United States, is small business.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's true.
Going into the next question, obviously part of city council campaigning is talking to the people of your ward. While you've been campaigning, what is one of the issues that keeps coming up, or one that is at the forefront of the public's mind? And Mr. Gruber, you will start.
I think that we'll probably both agree on this. Housing stock is a big issue.
Yes.
We have an aging housing stock in the city of Euclid. We have a lot of abandoned homes. We have a lot of homes for sale. The last time when the mortgage crisis hit, Euclid was at the epicenter of it, and we're just recovering, from that now. Mm-hmm. In every neighborhood, there's at least 1 or 2 homes that are abandoned, disheveled, have been broken into. The copper's been stolen. It's a blight in the community. When I was on council before, one of my things that I enjoyed to do, and some people might disagree with this, but tear down houses. The city of Euclid has too many small houses that need too much repair. Right now, I think there's like 600 and some homes for sale in the city of Euclid, not including the foreclosures. Every home that we tear down that's abandoned is an opportunity to increase your property values. Now you're going to say, what do we do with the lots? Well, we could sell them to a developer for $1, no tax abatement, to build eco-friendly, smaller homes. I work in the University Circle area. There's apartments down there. There's 600-700 square feet that are going for $1,800 a month. You can have a nice home for that. So our lots would be a good size for a small, eco-friendly home. We have all the accoutrements there. We have the sewers at the end of the street. We have the water lines. If you go to Geauga County, the outflow of folks, it'll cost you $30,000 to move in. You have to put a septic system in. You have to put a well system in. We have the infrastructure. We have what it takes. We have the lots available. Sell them for $1, smaller homes, and go with that. Draw folks that either empty nesters or folks, young professionals.
Mm-hmm. I don't agree with selling for $1, but however, I do agree with the fact that the biggest issue is our housing stock, and our abandoned homes are one of our issues. We are in the process right now demolishing homes. I've had 2 homes demolished within our ward in the last month and a half. One exploded because someone broke in and stole the copper piping and they didn't turn off the gas, and it exploded. It was a nuisance, a tremendous nuisance, because it also had a squatter. That was something that I definitely watched and enforced, and stressed the demolition of that. However, I don't always agree with the demolition of all of our homes, because we're losing our tax base if we demolish too many homes. But I do agree that when we do demolish, because right now we offer consolidation to the abutting home owners to the property, and we offer the opportunity to consolidate that property into their property. How I would agree to sell the property to someone to build on it if possible. That will help to increase that. I'm not sure about the $1, but
we can talk
that, yeah, we can talk about that. But I agree with that. But along with that, I'm co-sponsoring legislation currently regarding deconstruction, because before we demolish this particular home, I looked inside. After they removed all the boards, I peeked in. There was a refrigerator. There were so many beautiful lighting fixtures and the like that we could have taken from there before it was demolished and sold it or given it to someone who wanted to improve on their homes or build a home. So that's something that we're looking at for the future as well in the city.
Great, thank you. Mr. Gruber, any follow-up?
No, I agree that some of the homes should be saved. But the statement that we're losing tax dollars, property tax is just a very little bit of our budget. We make our money off of income tax. So we need to bring the jobs.